Obviously, the first question I ask everybody to get going with this is to bring it back to a younger you of where you first fell in love with music. Maybe not necessarily the first music you found, but where
hmm
you really fell in love with music as an art form.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up with a ton of music in my house. Like my parents are immigrants, and so arts were not like super focused in, my upbringing. And so I didn't like come into music like the way that like a lot of people were like, oh, I listen to, Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or whatever with my parents, all that. I
Yeah.
didn't have that pipeline. So it was all just like more modern stuff. And my babysitters who got me into like Fall Out Boy and stuff like that, just playing it in the car. And so that was like my introduction to like pop punk in general, and that's kind of where I've lived for the most part in my musical like exploration. My brother got me into like rap here and there. Some friends got me into pop, and my fiance and I got me into like Hispanic Latin music. And so, for the most part, though, it's been just that, and that started probably around like when I was like 6 or 7. But I don't think I really jumped into it and like hunted music the way I did until like probably high school. Like I was like making playlists,
Hmm.
burning CDs for my Walkman. That's gonna date me a little bit, and
Oh yeah,
things like
same.
that.
Oh yeah, I try to bring that up. I'm like, listen, like there was that being in a high school, having a Walkman, being in the hallways, it was everything. And like I just remember those CDs I had, and it was like the sacred Walkman. And then when it would break or the headphones would break, it'd be like, oh man, now I gotta go get a new pair of headphones that were like so cheap.
hmm
And it's like I hate that like I get it, it's all streaming, but like that physical media was just so cool to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad it's coming back. Like the
Hmm.
tapes are back on the rise.
Yeah.
Vinyl's been going up. CDs are coming back now too, which is cool. Like everyone's getting that like the extension for their computers to burn CDs again, which is nice.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's cool to know CDs because I've been like, hey, when are CDs coming back? So I don't know. I must be under a rock to not know. I saw the tapes. I know tapes are coming, which are really, really cool to
Yeah.
have and think about. But CDs, I had no idea that they were st like coming back.
I think they're like not like they haven't hit the meteoric rise of the other, it's all cycles, right? And so now that tapes have had their run, what's the next, form? It's going to be CDs. So I feel like we went like completely in a loop, right? We went from vinyl to tapes to CDs, and who knows what will be next.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm like, again, just give me the physical media. It always sounds better. I know streaming is important and
For
things
sure,
like
yeah.
that. Like, but it's like, come on. Like, let's like looking at the liner notes. That's how I found like half the bands I loved because I was like,
hmm
oh, thank you to, thanks to. And I was like, who's that? Like, oh, let me check them out. And I think
Yeah.
about that. And even you like hearing about like Fall Out Boy in like high school too. Were there any bands that really got you through like any difficult moments in your life when you were really going through it?
Oh man, yeah. There's a couple I can think of. I mean, the Wonder Years got me through college through and
Hmm.
through. Like in that same vein, like that sort of transit. Like I think those two bands do a really good job of accessing like these like really personal feelings, but then create like these like beautiful woven stories. I don't know. Like, and I think that like I didn't understand the beauty of the Wonder Years as much until later on. Like watching them grow, I got to watch myself grow, and I think that was really cool. Like going from Suburbia to Closer to Heaven, and then just moving on through all these records. You see a person's life across many albums, and I think that's what's cool about longevity too in these bands. And I wish there's a lot of bands that could like have that journey too. Spanish love songs.
Hmm.
Um, Brave Faces, everyone came out when I was in grad school on the East Coast, and I was like literally dirt poor, like at the point of like, had like $20 to my name, and just like that record of like feeling like the boot of capitalism and just like knowing like feeling so stuck in that like I'll never have a good job, I'll never
Hmm.
like own a home, like I'm doomed to like be on my in my parents' basement, like those feelings were definitely really real because my master's was in poetry, and so I was like not like heading towards a
Right.
very like lucrative traditionally lucrative like job track. And so I was just like, oh man, like this feels like super real and like super like pressing to probably like a lot of people. It is definitely not an easy listen. Like if you're like in an emotionally dark place, like
Oh,
caution,
hmm.
warning, you know, I don't know, like
Yeah.
have some ice cream on hand or something. I don't know. That record will beat you upside the head. Um, those got through me. Those got me through a lot of tough times. I think those bands do a really great job. Like all those East Coast bands, like
Hmm.
those Eastern winters are tough.
Oh yeah.
As you know, in New
Yeah.
Jersey, like it's no joke.
Oh, but you know what though? I tell everyone, no matter what, Uh, I will take a New Jersey winter over a Chicago winter any day. I'm like, I
Fair.
could probably never come back in the winter, like to visit, just because I'm like, I'm spoiled. Like, we got like, what, 10 inches the other day, and it was like, oh my God, this is the first big snow in forever. And I'm like, that's nothing for back home in Illinois. Like, that's a
Yeah.
winter. That's nothing, or how cold, like, and it's wild. But like, it's interesting too, with Spanish love songs is, I think it was last year during this time, I sat down with Matt Batiste and we were talking about the record because I was like, I want to talk about a record. I want to switch things up a little bit. And he had chose that record. And honestly, I slept on that record
Mm,
before I listened to it. And I don't know why I did. I always liked them, but for whatever reason, I listened to it. And again, yeah, you have to be in a certain place for it. But it hit me. And again, I was going through a specific time as well where it was like,
yeah.
yeah, they get it. This was written for me. And they're just a slept on band. I think so many
Hmm.
people still have no idea who they are. And I think it might be their name. I think some people hear their name and they're like, what's
What's
Spanish
going
Love
on
Song?
here?
What is
Yeah.
that? Go listen. If you are a fan of the Menzingers,
Yes.
Wonder
Great
Years,
comparison. Yep.
someone else too, I'm trying to think. But if you think them, you will love them. They are
Yeah.
just, oh, now
Even
I
like
feel
early
like,
Joyce Manor too. Like
yeah.
if you just like that gritty, punky East Coast sound, like
Yep.
they've got it. They've got it.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. As much as like I love the Chicago sound because it's so distinct, I'm like that East Coast sound. Like it's just,
It
I
hits.
gravitate towards it so much. And like these local bands I have by me here, like that was like my savior because I'm like I loved Chicago, I loved the scene there, but like finding my way through this scene and like, oh, this is the sound. Okay, like I'm here. I'm in Asbury Park. This is where I'm at. Like
Yeah.
for you, I'm like I gotta talk like someone from Chicago on here because I've been so removed for the past, what, like 6 years, I think I've been here.
Hmm.
What is it so special about Chicago and the scene to you and creating music that like the scene kind of fuels you in a way?
Oh man, that's like such a good question. And I do think I'm gonna start with my initial bias that like I had growing up, and that like I am a shooter for Chicago. Like I'm ride or die for the city. I think it's
Hmm.
like I do think it's the greatest city in the world. I know people disagree, but I just think like the culture, the music, the food, the
Yeah.
views, just like it's just got a piece of all of that. And I think because of its like a conglomeration of all these things, like it just creates really fucking good music, especially for Midwest emo, because it's not an easy city by any means. Like you get these high highs of summer, but then like you said, like you get these just like brutal battering winters. And I think like especially for a genre like emo, like I think like an emo ballad, like a love song, is can be so powerful, but also like desperation emo is also so powerful. And I feel like Chicago vacillates really well between those two, and that you have songwriters and musicians who really encapsulate both ends of it. And I just think it's also just like for as big of a city it is, like the community can be so small, in good ways, and like we lift each other up and care about each other a lot. Like point, example here is like I'm wearing a Gauntlets t-shirt. This band is my lead guitarist's new project. I'm gonna plug them because they're great. If you like Title Fight, if you like shoegazy stuff, they sound awesome. Their new EP just came out. They had their first show this weekend, and I probably knew like 85% of the people in that room.
Hmm.
And that's what's it's about to me. I think because I think like I think every city, every scene has that same like connection and community. But for Chicago being such a large city and still having that, I think is really special. And I haven't been to a ton of other of like the big metropolitan cities yet, like to see their scenes. Where I'm sure we'll talk about later this episode. We're going on tour to the East Coast for the first time and
Hmm.
seeing some of those bigger cities. And I know Philly's got a great scene, but like I've never been to an emo show in New York. I don't know what that looks like. I'm excited to see it, right? But like to
Right.
my knowledge, though, like we do a really good job in Chicago of just like holding each other up and saying like this is like how we get through. There's like a lot. Every season's got its ego, but there's a lot of great bands who forego ego and think about the community first, and like that's my favorite part about this place.
Yeah, that's what I loved when I was doing the stuff. Like I just remembered you could go to so many different venues, whether it was subterranean and then
Mhm.
you were downstairs. You could go to the beat kitchen and these things and these again, like I would walk in and know so many people or get to know so many people because of that
Mhm.
space. And I think, yeah, there was some ego, but again, not so much in the emo realm. I saw it a lot in like the strictly like those that were strictly pop punk sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. If
That
like
is
if we're
where,
talking like 2010s,
yes,
like that was like I was in a band then too, and like it was like impossible to like break through some of those barriers. And like
yeah.
there's still a lot of difficulty now, and I think we've improved a lot. But like, man, like it was
Yeah.
excruciating. I hated it, to be
Yeah, and
honest.
that's what I would tell people, and they're like, "What?" And then when I tell people when I moved here, and I'm like, "There wasn't so much ego like in Jersey, but again, it depended. Where are you at? Are you in the hardcore kind of punk scene? Okay, you're not going to see
Hmm.
that. Venture into some of those other realms, and I think I just appreciated Chicago because of the amount of different bands too, and the bills
Yeah.
that you would have so many different. Like I still, I mean, gosh, I'm dating myself how long ago it was. I can't even remember what year it was, but like the Hush Sound, I saw them when they were
Oh
big.
my God, what a good band.
I saw them randomly in a basement in this kid's Luke Wilson. I doubt he's listening. I don't even really like talk to him anymore. But he was in his basement and they were on this bill and they were with all these hardcore bands. And then there was like they were called the Hush because they weren't the Hush Sound yet. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, who is this band with like this keyboard, like the piano?
These
Like, what are they
pianos and stuff.
doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, they're great. They're good. Maybe I'll see them around. And then, follow up like Pete Wentz scoops them up, this and that.
Yeah.
But it's like those rooms that I was in that I'm like, all right, I saw a hardcore band, the Hush Sound. I saw like some other hardcore band, some punk band that had like just the punkest kids you could think of if you had a picture
Hmm.
of punk kids. And
Yeah.
that was so special. Like I feel about Chicago, like in those early years is like it didn't matter. Like they had so many shows like that where it was like round up liking so many different bands because I was in those spaces. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't know. Again, maybe someone listening that's like not in those areas. Like I can't speak for New York, but I know New Jersey, like and Philly, I've heard so many things about Philadelphia that like their scene is just so special and tight knit. And again,
Yeah.
it's one of those like I don't want to be rude, but like rougher cities where like people it you got to have some grittiness to it to make it in a place like Philly with music
Yeah.
wise I've
For
heard and I'm
sure.
like again that brings it back to Chicago as well like people say I still say it's the greatest place I'm still pro Chicago even though I'm out here I root for the Bears I root for my Cubs
Hell yeah.
I am just like that person that's like no, Chicago forever. The food is the best. The pizza
Hmm.
is the best. I don't
Yep.
care. I will always say that all day about the East Coast that no, Chicago has the best pizza ever and not deep dish. We have like tavern style. We have the good
Yes.
stuff.
The little squares.
Like, come
That's
on,
what's up.
people. It was so good. But like, I like even seeing Sincere Engineer this weekend, like I teared up just because of how much like it was a piece of Chicago here. And like, Chicago is
Yeah.
just so special. It is just
It really is.
oh, could go on about Chicago because it's just is like the venue. Like for you, what is your favorite place like to go see a show? Like maybe not necessarily play,
Yeah.
but one like if you are like, hey, I want to go see a show. I mean, I can't bet I could guess it, but like, what is your favorite one?
Of like of the bigger venues, like I've always had a soft spot for Bottom Lounge. I think the room
Hmm.
is shaped really nicely. Like,
Yes.
you can still see everything. Like even if it's a sold out show, like you're not like neck and neck with people. Like also in the pit, of course, sure. But like,
Right.
you can choose your distance there and still comfortably have a good time. Are the merch and bathroom lines like a nightmare there? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that's a go
Hmm.
that's like the hallway of death. But
Yes.
of smaller venues, this place shut down recently, but I really loved Kitchen 17.
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever got a chance to like be in Chicago for a
No.
show, but they were like well, it's called Fallen Log. They were attached to a vegan restaurant called Kitchen 17, and they had like a vegan deep dish pizza, and the sound there was like, it wasn't perfect, but the vibes were really immaculate. And I really enjoyed that they would feed the bands, which is I think huge. Like any band that gets to do that is always awesome. But I also think B Kitchen is just really good. It's like Bottom Lounge, but like a bit, condensed. But like the room is good, and the sound there is pretty solid. I do think that the best sound in the city, like for a venue, is G-Man Tavern. I think that
Hmm.
they really like that room. Like is built well. The way that's shaped, the triangle that pushes the sound back. Like you can really hear. a lot of good stuff there. Small stage, but whatever. I mean, but
Yeah.
interesting shape, whatever. Like the sound is awesome, and right now it's Evan who's working there, and Evan does a phenomenal job mixing bands and like just like tweaking things so that you're hearing all the layers and textures, and it's really cool.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, gee man, that brings it back. I'm like that is one of those things too. I'm like, I think that Chicago just does well of all the different places, the different type of venues you can go to. I know like a favorite of mine always was like the Salt Shed. That was one for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
That is just like so, and I know that people say to you sometimes complain about the layout, but and like that is one. I mean, and then of course Metro, which I know, listen, everyone's gonna say that one. But for
Yeah.
me, I love the Bottom Lounge too. I think that's
Hmm.
one that like is a little underrated because a lot of people go to like, okay, Metro, Sub T, and that okay, but no, the Bottom Lounge always was, and I appreciated that where it was located on the street, like the parking wasn't abysmal. As someone that cannot parallel park to save their life, I could
Yeah.
easily just roll in if I got there early or the little
Hmm.
lot, whatever. That's always the plus. So I'm like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, come on, Bottom Lounge, and they have good food too. Like people
Yeah,
like
the
you can't
food
sleep
is
on it.
underrated there. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
their wings a lot. They got some good fries. Like I'll lunch there.
yeah. So Chicago, good venues, good food, good bands, just the best. Two, like obviously our show is to like how music is a catharsis, like when you're
Yeah.
songwriting and creating. So I would love to know like how creating music has helped in your mental health as like a tool to process emotions.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the most important ways I do it for sure. And I don't want to speak for my bandmates, but I would
Mhm.
imagine too, like there's like, I've been talking a lot recently about how difficult it is to be in a band, which sounds like, oh, woe is you, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But, and,
Yeah.
but it's like getting five adults into a room, when you've got jobs, partners, pets, etc. Things are happening like every single week, is difficult. And then to sit there for like, we do 2 hour practices for 2 hours trying to either rehearse stuff or write new stuff. Like, after a long day of work, like sometimes you just like don't fucking want to be there. And not because you don't love your bandmates or love the shit you're doing, but like it's just hard,
Yeah.
and not to mention at this point in time too, like the world is literally on fucking fire, right? And
Yeah.
so I think just like for all of us, like getting into a room and like still chugging through stuff and making something beautiful is like really important. For me, like specifically as like the lyricist, like working through like, you know, traumas of like my history of a post 9/11 world as like a brown person in our song 912 that we put out a
Hmm.
couple months ago, or like, also celebration. I think a lot of times like we look at songwriting or any kind of art as catharsis of the negative, but I think also like jubilation and celebration of like the positive is like really important to like etch and like mark. And like at least for us, the first EP Fate Lines, like there's tension and there's anxiety in that record, but there's also like a huge sense of like purpose and direction, and that like I was writing these words for my partner who I love very much, and we were going through a lot of difficult things, but also a lot of beautiful things. And like, I don't know, I think that like having a snapshot of like here's where we were, and like also trusting here's where we're going is I think really special and beautiful. I feel like a lot of times you don't get to like have that uh even for yourself, but it's even more like humbling and gratifying that like other people can also point to this record and be like, this is a moment of joy. Like I listen to this song and think of the person I love. Or like, Valentine's Day is coming. I'm just like, we're getting like messages being like, sending this song to like my crush or whatever, or
Hmm.
like maybe my wife, or like dancing to the song in the kitchen. I'm like, holy shit, like that's awesome and
Yeah.
crazy and beautiful. And I think like if you would ask me this question like 5 years ago and when I was in my old band, I think I was working through a lot of more negative feelings, like breakups, being cheated on, feeling
Hmm.
alone and, feeling unlovable, all these things that go through. Um, but like to harken back to the example of like, Soupy in the Wonder Years, I loved watching his lyrical growth from like being a nervous, angsty, pissed off college kid to someone on the road that understands that they've got a place in this, they're carving a
Hmm.
place in this musical world, still working through emotions of like death and loss, and then to fatherhood, the fears of the world for your children now. What does that mean? Watching the generation above you age and like move on to their next chapter of their existence, whatever that might look like. That's like I think like an arc we want to follow. Like our next EP is definitely you know, I will never stop writing songs about how much I love my fiance, but I definitely am trying to explore some other things too in the next record and what we're writing, we're already trying to write LP1, just looking at like what are these feelings going to work through because it's so hard to be alive. We don't choose it, and the people that have the power to make our lives easy are not doing so. And so,
Mm-hmm.
how do we get through it, in a means that it feels meaningful and feels useful and feels rewarding because like that's all we kind of got at this point.
Yeah, because I mean, it's if you, it's even weird sometimes for me, like when I promote this podcast right now. Like I said it the other day, like it's weird because like the world is on fire right now. There's so much
Hmm.
going on, and I'm like, why am I sitting here being like, hey, listen to my podcast, go ahead and do this right now. The world's on fire right now, and like all hell's breaking loose. But here's my podcast clip. Go check it out. But it
Yeah,
also like I do know that there's people that look to those releases, whether it's like listening to music like you're creating or other things. They need that outlet to
yeah,
connect to and kind of feel like more human in a world we're living today. And it's wild that like I feel like even a decade we were still dealing with all this stuff for like it just was a little more underground, not underground, but like now people feel more comfortable to be a certain way and the world is
yeah.
a certain way. So it's like it's more it seems more chaotic, but it's always been there and it's
Exactly. We just have more access to. I was, like we evolutionarily were not like we've technologically advanced way faster than our minds are capable of understanding, right? We were not meant
yeah.
to carry the burden of an entire globe suffering or joy at a moment's notice, at a scroll, at a tweet, at a
Hmm.
Instagram post, whatever, right? But we were there, right? So now we have to like empathize beyond what our little our brains are not used to this capacity, like the seven touch, the seven relationships that we hold from our tribal days have not been have evolutionized out of our brains yet, right? So now we're trying to like empathize for people across the world, and we should be doing these. Obviously, we should care, and you shouldn't be callous. But like, I think that there's I'm not gonna go so far as say like, like a 10 month summer song is gonna save someone's life, right? But it's at least saved my life, right? And,
Hmm.
and I think like the things that we do that keep our humanities for ourselves, like first, like oxygen mask on you first, that's important to do. And then you find ways of like, okay, how can this song help somebody else? That's great. If not, I also need to still be an activist, be a community member, check on my circle, check on my people. And and like I think that we just can't let the buck stop short of like self-care, which I think sometimes uh we do. Like we let ourselves like, oh, I did this creative thing, or I made this, so and that's enough. And like, yeah, that's enough for you, but it's not always enough for the other people. And to know that it's not a crime or punishment either way. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's it. I think that's so great that you're really open about that because I think a lot of people too, it's like I've had some people come on and talk about like their songwriting and like, yeah, it's definitely it's for me or, this is my process. But then they do also bring it about the other people as well, like the listener. And like you already said, you already have people in your DMs, I'm sending this to. So you're already creating that effect
Hmm.
in some way of that connection. And I think it's it's just it's to me music is that language to help us in times like these and again whether
Yeah,
it's taking your mind off you're connecting to it and I think that's why I value anyone that is a songwriter because I am the listener. I
for
couldn't
sure.
write a song to save my life. Like everyone says, "Oh, you're not trying." No, I still like I'm like I have a guitar sitting right here that I'm trying to learn and struggling. Um but it's one of those things of like that it's just such a beautiful thing, especially in times like these. Like I'm a music listener because I feel like, all right, I need that connection. And again, yes, maybe you don't view your music as saving like maybe someone's life. You don't know, right? Like you never
Also
know.
true. Also true. Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
And it's
But
wild.
and I think what's cool about what you're doing too, though, is that like you're creating a platform to like get these stories out, right? I mean, like I'm a big proponent of the idea that storytelling is what preserves us and keeps us sane and keeps us alive as like a singular body, but also as a species. Like it is like I'm a broken record in that I say this all the time, but like we're the only species that do this. Like
Hmm.
like there's no history of like cats that like, tells of what cats were doing 2000 years ago, besides what maybe humans have like written down, you know?
Hmm.
And so like if we can transmute these stories and ideas and these like lived experiences through generations, like why not? And that's so cool. And this is part of that. And I think that that's what's really special about like, any art form. Like, it's like songwriting is one piece of the big puzzle, right? Podcasts are another, video, photography, all these things like they add to this giant biome of the human experience. And if we let go of that, then I think we lose something very special about what it means to be human.
And in being open too, like a lot of people, when they come on here, it'll be funny, like not in a funny way, but it'll almost be like, hey, like I didn't open up about this, or I'm not open usually about this in my songwriting. Like it's one of
Yeah.
those things. And then when they open up, I'm almost like, wow, like I view your songs in such a different way now because of what you've expressed about what it does for you. Like
Yeah.
specifically, I mean, that's a flex, but like Ian Shelton of Military Gun, when I
Yeah.
had him on and he was talking about like big disappointment and like what that does. Every
Mm.
time he hears that, that's a constant check-in for him,
Yeah.
of how he's living his life and singing those lyrics. And I'm just like, I never thought about the songwriter in that way of having that moment. Like you, to me, I'm like, all right, you write it and it's like, okay, it's tabled on to the next thing. But not realizing like when you go to sing it, when you go to think about that, what are you writing next?
Yes.
What do you want to write
Hmm.
next? You're thinking about those things and it is that constant check-in. And I was like, I've learned a lot in this about just music. And like when I go see someone play, then I'm like, oh, wow, they're singing these words that maybe they
Yeah.
wrote like 2, 3 years ago, but it's resurfacing now. So like, too,
Hmm.
like, I mean, we got to talk about this new EP on the way because by the
Yeah.
time this comes out,
Yes.
your name is my ocean. I immediately like hearing these demos, I was like really excited because again, I don't know where to fit your band. I don't want to ever say like, okay, you're pop punk or you're this,
Yeah.
and I love that your band has different layers to it to where
Hmm.
it's not just all right, they're this band, throw them in, which is really, really cool. And to
Thank
hear
you.
that, especially in this era of time, like where I think a lot of things can sound the same.
Yeah.
So with this new EP, what are you most excited about? Because I know you sent me the demo, so the demos are
Yeah.
going. We're at that point. Uh, what about this EP that that's going to be so special for your band?
I think that like it's some of our best songwriting so far. And, people that like know us in person or in our Discord or have just been with us for the past, we're almost 3 years old now. Like we're a slow band. We in terms of getting stuff out there, but we are pretty prolific in how fast we're writing stuff because we have fun writing it. Like the number one rule in 10 Month Summer is that like we will not finish a song if we're not all fucking with it. And so
Hmm.
like we luckily love each other a lot and then trust each other a lot in our process where we fuck with a lot of songs we write. And so like we had written these songs a while back. You can actually hear a fair few of them on Live at G-Man, which is on Spotify right now, which we will probably be taking down once this comes out, just so that you're not being inundated with too many versions of the same track. But what's really exciting about this is that like the first EP was just like, here's what we got. We need to put something together just to show that we're a band that exists. This was a
Hmm.
more concentrated effort. It is like a half extension. There's still some themes from the first EP of Fate Lines that like I'm still writing about my partner that'll never change.
Hmm.
Um and and I've always loved like how important names are. Like one of my favorite quotes is just, the one of like the first time you die is like when you take your last breath, the second time you die is when someone says your name for the last time. And I think that like saying people's names in general is such a special thing.
Hmm.
And so like Your Name Is My Ocean comes from the first single we're going to put out called Tomar Hashi Tomar Nam, which is in my home tongue means your like Tomar Hashi, like your laugh, your smile, Tomar Nam, your name. Just like all these things that brighten up a room. Like the first lines of that song are like warm rain after a long December, and just this idea of like when you are with a person you love, or when you see them, when you're like when like shit hits the fan, like you know what a Chicago winter is like. You are like
Yes.
this the whole time, and that
Yeah.
first spring rain, you're just like, oh, we made it, we
Oh
did it.
yeah.
The thaw comes, the green comes back, the birds chirp again, the flowers bloom, and like that, like that's gonna open this EP. And I think that's what we want this to be. We want this like we want you to be excited that we're back. with some hopefully good shit. But we're gonna talk about some hard shit on this record. We're gonna talk about, the current political landscape. I mean, we've already touched on that a bit with 912, but like Scum Drop is an indigenous person. I'm a person of color. Like, like we have lived through and are products of colonization, imperialism, these domestic and global violences, and we're not going to shy away from talking about that. It's ingrained in our blood, in our skin, in our identities, in our histories, our cultures, and so um this EP is going to touch on that for sure, but it's going to talk about also like what helps us get through that, which is of course love and community and friendship. And it's going to have, one of my favorite songs about my best friend Alex. It's just a song about us getting drunk at bars and about the first night I met him, and I barely knew who he was, and he told me all these like deep secrets of his life, and I was just like, wow, like, um, I don't know a better way to like fight through the darkness than that. And then the EP is going to close with this big, really fun song about love again. About like what it means to like be with the person that gets you through the darkest times and the one that's next to you in the best times. And I know that not everyone has a romantic partner in that sense, but I think we all have people that like, help us move through the darkness because there's a lot of darkness as we talked about here, and I'm sure unfortunately will continue before by the time this comes out.
Oh,
And we have to make the light in regards to that. And so so like lyric wise, I'm really excited about the stories we're telling. Music wise, there's some nasty riffs, some groovy bass lines as always. Charlie's hitting some really sick guitar stuff, and then Luke is just fucking hitting those things on the kit. We're producing it with Gary Cioni, who's done
hmm.
some records that I'm sure your listeners already love,
Oh yeah.
Amway, Leisure Hour, Tiny Voices, Good Sleepy. I mean, it's just like Gary knows what's up, and we're really excited. This is our first time working outside of just ourselves. Luke has produced everything we've done so far, and so it's nerve-wracking to have someone else touch your work, of course, but it's also cool to see their perspectives and their ideas, and some of this kind of experience and perspective of the genre, I think is going to help a lot to unlock some really cool parts of these songs. And it's coming out with We're Trying Records. We're really excited for this partnership with them. Hopefully we'll do some vinyls and CDs, but we've loved Jordan and the We're Trying Records bands for a long, long time. And so it's really gratifying and humbling to be working with him and his label. That's going to be really neat.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, even to like go back to like, when you guys, what you guys, I love that you guys are open about the landscape because I think a lot of people, the political landscape, and I hate even calling it politics because it's just as human rights that are going on right now.
Yes.
There's so
Yeah.
many things. Um,
Hmm.
but for me, it's like I love when a band speaks on that, and then I see people really react to that in a positive way because so
Yeah.
many often we hear such a negative thing. And I
Hmm.
think it's really, really important to have bands speak on their experiences, right? Because my experience watching what's unfolding as someone who looks like me, anyone who looks like me, we are watching, we are seeing what is going on. We don't know
Yeah.
the experience. And it's one of those things of like, it's so important to have people speak on their experiences so people can learn and have the opportunity to learn and be like, this is going on, whether you want to
Yeah.
think it or not. Like every day, like even yesterday, I am sure with like the Super Bowl and Bad Bunny, I've
Hmm.
seen the things going on, and I'm just like, are we really in this kind of world right now where people are being like this? Like,
Yeah.
yes, we are. We are in Trump's
Hmm.
America, where this is, 2026. Yes, we are. But
Yeah.
I really appreciate that because I think like, like going back to like 912, like I really think so many of us didn't think about that, right? Like I know like
For sure.
and it's something we should have. And like look now that I'm older and like think about that time and like friends that have shared experiences, it's like, damn, I didn't even know. Like I was just like
Yeah.
and it's one of those things again, you're creating that community and you're creating that space for people to have that opportunity to be educated and learn and say like, no, you're like listen to it in this way. Because some people I think
Hmm.
when they're approached a certain way, they may be like, oh, but through music, I think that's such a beautiful way to get that message out there. So I applaud any band that is speaking on their experiences and also like not afraid to do it and like dumb
Yeah.
it down, because it shouldn't be.
No, we have to be blunt about it. It's uncomfortable, but it's like I don't know. Sorry, it's uncomfortable, I guess, but like this is what people live through, die through, suffer through, and so like,
Yeah.
and we're also like, we also acknowledge that like we're coming from a place of like extreme privilege that we get to do this at all. You know, there are
Hmm.
people who have more difficult stories, who have very intricate and complex things to share and say that like that like don't have the platform to do it, and so like it is our responsibility to be doing that for them. Like if whether we're part of those spheres or not, like like we're not, none of us are trans. We'll still speak up for trans rights. None of us are
Hmm.
women. We'll still speak up for women's rights. It just it takes that majority voice to do something about it. And like, I've been preaching a lot about intersectionality, right? It's just like, yeah, I might not know what it's like to be a woman, but I know what it's like to be subjugated for something I can't control, for being a
Hmm.
minority in a space or for being silenced for that reason. And so, I can at least meet you eye to eye there and know that that's why I have to fight for you too. And I think that if we just took that little nugget, we could do a lot better. I think we get so isolated and insular sometimes in the way that we're trying to like approach these things. Um, and I think we could do a little more, I don't know, collective reading and yeah, education on like how to go about some of these things.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think too, even like to go back to like working with Gary, like, oh my gosh, like he's another one. I had Sal of Gato Black, which I don't know if you are
Hmm.
familiar with Gato Black, but he's like post-hardcore.
Yeah.
Um, and admittedly, I'm like, I knew Gary worked with Leisure Hour, I knew Emily, I knew certain things. But when I heard the Gato Black record that he worked on as well, I was like, wow. Okay. Like again, understood what Gary has done. Um, but like just and I get it too, like someone else working with you now, but like what a person to get to work with though,
Yeah.
right? Like I mean, I get
Hmm.
it like from the artistic standpoint probably too, because even me with the podcast where people will be like, "Oh, you should hire like someone to edit, someone to do this." I'm like, "No, I don't want too many
Yeah.
hands. Like I
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to do that because I know how I want it to sound. I know how I want it to look, this, that. And that's just a little, like, again, a little podcast that I do, right? Versus like what you're putting out into the world for everybody to hear.
Yeah.
Um, so has that process started yet? Have you been in that room yet with him?
So we recorded everything ourselves. He's just doing the mixing and mastering
Right.
for us. So we haven't been per se in the room with him, but we've been in the email room with him for sure. We have got some almost final versions of like the first single at this point in time when we're recording this back, but it's going pretty smoothly. So I think that like once we like make clear to him like what our sound like even though we are a bit across the board in our sound, like there's still like some like thread of Tenma we want to hold. I think once we
Hmm.
got that pretty lockstep with Gary, the passes have been faster and faster each time. And it was, I mean, what was helpful too actually was like stuff like this. Like I watched the Gary Cioni podcast on Emo Kids Anonymous. Like
Yes.
that was like the week where we were like starting to get into the process with him. So I was just like, wow, like I get to learn about this person who I've only like seen in emails or just gone to the website or
Right.
obviously I've heard his work, but like here's the man himself talking about how he works with bands, the ways that he approaches certain things, and his history, his story, and I think that gives you a good lens on how to like communicate with a person, on the other end of the email or whatever, if we're in the same room or not. But yeah, I really like. I really think that this is going to be a good experience for us. It's also teaching us a lot about our process, putting some fire under our asses to like get moving on stuff. Because like, again, we just move kind of slow, and we'd love to put out all these. There's like a backlog of like 10 more songs that we
Hmm.
have that like are kind of ready to go. We just got to record them and get them going. So hopefully they'll come sooner than later. But yeah, it's been cool to you know just even communicate with someone about this stuff and bounce ideas, just via the emails. Luke has been doing most of that, which I appreciate him for doing that. He's our engineer, so he knows how
Hmm.
to speak that language. But it would be lovely to one day get to go into the studio and like have the engineer or have like
Yeah.
someone there to like help us write some stuff or think about other ways to create a 10-month summer song that isn't just us five members doing it. But we'll see.
Yeah, but no, like even me, like again, even listening to the demos of it, like I think it was like Broken Fist in a Boxing Glove. Like right
Yeah.
away, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm excited to hear like what is that going to be like to like also like your band. It just reminds me. I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I don't offend, but like it reminds me of like American football, and sometimes when I listen to
Oh,
it.
we'll take it.
I'm like,
We'll
I
take it.
reminded, I'm like, what am I listening to sometimes when I hear like this was reminding me, this sound in particular, like I'm taken here. And even like the end of like Destiny Bond, like I think about that, like that's just
Hmm.
that ending of that. I'm like, goes further than what other people would just say, oh, it's Midwest emo, oh, it's emo. Like this is why you can't categorize like 10 Month Summer in just a box. Because I'm like, I
Yeah.
am hearing things and sounds that are not like your typical, again, and no disrespect to another band, but like a typical band you would just go see play, right? And that's just
Yeah.
really cool. And I'm like, I'm excited to see like what this EP, like once it's out, what other people think. Because I'm like, even in the
Yeah.
demo phase, I'm like, oh, I really, really like this. Like, I like that
Oh,
sound.
thank
Like,
you.
that's gonna be really, really cool. Like, and it gets me excited to see that like local bands are doing a different sound. Because
Yeah.
again, like I appreciate anyone's art form and what they choose, but it's like as I'm getting older, like want something different. Like, I don't want something I've heard
Yeah.
before. And again, that's me speaking like I'm not creating music, and someone's probably gonna torch me on that. But like, it's one of those things of like it just got me to where I was like, oh, that's why I like this band.
Mm.
So it's just really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for that. That's like
Yeah.
that's so kind. A funny tangential story about American
Yeah.
football is that we found out that Charlie works in the same office as Steve from American football, and so we're trying to
Whoa.
like see if you're watching this. We actually didn't plan this, but Steve, if
Yeah.
you're not watching this, we're trying to have like Charlie just like knock on his door, and be like, "You're Steve from American football, right? Do
Hmm.
you want to listen to some more demos?" Just
Yes.
like 10 month opening for AF at the Salt Shed. That's what we're trying to do.
Listen, shoot, I'm the biggest shoot your shot whenever you can. Um,
You got to. You
and
got to.
that's what I did with Ian of Military Gun. Like one day I was just
And look
randomly
at
like,
that.
I never tag anybody. And I just randomly tagged him. And I was like, my goal for 2026 is to get Ian on my podcast. Within 10 minutes, he's like, let's do it. I
Oh,
assumed it was
that's
just because
awesome.
I thought just because I tagged, it was because he saw my TikToks and like he enjoyed how
Oh,
I talked about
cool.
the record. I had no idea. He's like, typically I don't like to like just interject or like, ingrain myself, but I've seen your TikToks and I really enjoy your TikToks talking about the
Oh,
record. And I was like,
oh my God. You've seen my stuff.
how did I not like, oh wait, what did you see? Like, oh God, what did I say? But it's like shooting your shot. Like, you
100%.
never know.
You
Uh,
gotta.
so yeah, let's manifest that. Let's see that the
We're,
Salt Shed. Like, I think American football is supposed to be doing shows. They're supposed to be doing stuff. I
they just
heard.
announced a tour, so
Hmm.
I think it's like August 14th. We're
Yes.
around. We'll cancel anything. Just let us
Yes.
know if you see this. One of the Kinsella Bros or Steve or who,
Oh,
if management team, Polyvinyl, Salt Shed folks, if you see this, we're so
let's.
down.
Yes, let's do it. Especially, yeah, like for that, and obviously too, you like mentioned like we're trying records. Like, how does it feel to be like getting to that point as a band where like, okay, you're signed, like you're going to be doing this with this label and having this
Yeah.
EP a part of it. Like, how does that feel? Because that has to almost be like just such an accomplishment of like we're here, we're at this place,
Yeah.
we like this great feeling.
It feels so rewarding to like have someone, someone whose taste you trust. Yeah, obviously, like every label is to a degree a tastemaker, right? Or a
Yeah.
taste decider because they're choosing what bands they want. And we love the taste that Jordan has on the other bands that are on this label. Shout out to like some of our homies in like Routine Faucet in Chicago, 95 Corolla in Tennessee. We're playing with a ton of We're Trying bands on tour that's coming up too.
Hmm.
Um, Heavy Metal Chess Club, yes, yes, 1,000 times yes, Beach Shop. Um, it's really rewarding to have someone trust in your stuff, especially because what we were talking about before too, about like we don't have like a quote unquote sound. We ha this
Hmm.
Our sound is, do we like the song or not? And like yes, we'll try to
Yes.
find some like thread or cadence, and but like when people ask what genre are you, we say like yeah, emo shoegaze, but like I say Lakeshore emo for a reason. It's because like these are songs that I want to hear in my car on Lakeshore Drive, whether it's
Hmm.
winter, summer, spring, fall. We're writing a song for that mood. We're writing a song for being by the water with a behemoth of a city next to you that has centuries of history behind it. That like to me like that's cool that someone else sees that in us and says, I trust you to make something good. Let's do this. And that's also why I'm so stoked about this next EP because I think it's a continuation of like we threw like a straight up like ballad on our first EP. Like 202 is just like a straight up like waltz-esque love song, and like fuck it, that's what we're
Yeah.
about. And so, I think that like EP2 is going to be taking some of those like choices and risks too, of just being like, hey, like here's a song we loved and this is why you're going to get it. And we're just lucky that Jordan also likes it and wants to put it out. And so, Jordan, whenever you see this, we just appreciate you too, man. Not just for us, but for all the bands that you put forward, because it's not easy to run a label either. I want to also give quick props to Righteous Anger, who was part of our first release. That's our homie Joe, who wanted to start a label and just like, will you guys be part of it? And we were a tiny band. We're like, we don't know what benefit we can give you, and vice versa. Like, we're just going to come together. And I think we've done some really good work. We were not expecting Fate Lines to do as well as it's done for a debut release from a podunk band from Chicago. Like, we sold out the vinyl in 6 hours. Our CD sold out in like 2 weeks. It's been super humbling that people have cared about this band so much, to the depth that we care about it too. And Righteous Anger is a big part of that belief and that like hope that like we can make a difference through the stuff we do. So just wanted to make sure that we gave our flowers there as well, because I think it's important to do that.
Yeah, no, it is. Like, and I think a lot of the bands that I talk to, they'll say that a lot too, is like who believes in you is so important. Who gives you
Hmm.
that chance when like say you're looking for that and who's there and that they're part of that village of the
Yeah.
band, so to speak. And like that's too, I mean, even you were talking about like the lakeshore, like yeah, I could definitely picture like there's so many spots like when I'd be on Lakeshore Drive and or just sitting there by the water in the city. Like I'm like in my favorite spot. I used to be in Chicago and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this would be the music. And even like I know like before I let you go, I want to talk about this tour for sure. I think it starts
Yeah.
March 9th.
Yes.
And you're gonna be doing that. And that is again on the East Coast, which is really, really cool. I'm like, I have to check the date. I know you're going to New York. You're not coming
Yeah.
to Jersey, but
Unfortunately not. We really want to, but just the
oh,
routing didn't work out.
oh,
I'm so sorry.
I know. Everybody always tells and I always say like, for whatever reason, that's the only downside about me moving here is like the routing of these tours. Sometimes it's like, oh, we're going to New York City. I'm like, yes, I know I could technically take a train, do this, do that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, listen, on a weeknight,
Yeah, it's tough.
listen, I will try, I will do it. But I'm like, and I always joke like, oh, the bands just hate us, but I know they don't. I know they don't hate us. But yes, so obviously with this tour, and coming out here to the East Coast, you've already touched on a little bit, like experience like some place like Philly, New York.
Mhm.
What else are you most excited about? Like, how is touring? Like, how do you also manage like your mental health on your tour, so to speak? We're
Yeah,
about to hop on this because like I'm learning that it's not all like rainbows and butterflies on tour like I think it
yeah.
is.
I mean, like, I'll say it kind of bluntly, and like, and I maybe it's just because of the size of the band we're at, but like aside from like the shows themselves, a good part of tour like sucks. Like, you are
Hmm.
driving a fuck ton of hours and miles. You are sleep deprived. You are tired and hungry. You don't always get, the
Mm.
showers you want to take, so you're not smelling your best. We're human beings, right? We're five people. We're traveling in 2 cars for this one, but like sometimes your bandmates get on your nerves because they're people and you love them. And so you're a bit, cranky, whatever. It happens. And also you're away from your loved ones, your friends. Maybe you have PTO, although maybe you don't. You're like losing money being on tour. You're losing money because like bands don't make a lot of money on tour in general. Gas is astronomical. You got to feed yourself. You're sleeping on couches and floors. Like that. It's tough and it's difficult. All that being said,
Yeah.
we are so damn excited to
Yeah.
play in all these cities where we've never gone before. And like this is our third time doing any kind of like out of state stuff like on at a long period of time. We did like a little weekender with Bottom Bracket once, and then we did a small tour down to like Tennessee and back. And It's just been crazy that in 3 years, like before we post a tour announcement and like two people would be like, cool, maybe we'll see you. And now it's like in multiple spots, people like, well, we'll see you in Brooklyn, we'll see you in Massachusetts, we'll see you in Philly. Can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. And just like, wow, like that is again really humbling that like we live in a time where, you had to build that in a much harder way before. So we're,
Yeah.
like for as much as touring, like the logistics suck, that hasn't changed probably for, decades. it is a lot easier to get people to at least see you. I can make a TikTok post tonight, which I probably will, about like, we're playing this place in Cleveland, come see us. And like someone who maybe has never heard of our band before might have it on their feed. And like that is, you had to get a street team back in the day,
Yeah.
email blasts, you had to earn like social posts. Even before the internet, you had to like, I don't know, posters, letters, whatever, or trust that
Hmm.
the locals are like doing that work for you. But there's a lot of ease to the marketing aspect of touring and of just getting connection out there. And we've also got our Discord server, which helps a lot, and just getting people excited and stoked. And we've got people from all over the states and the world in the server, so that's been cool to have that growth as well.
That's yeah, that's a good point because as much as I'm the biggest social media hater, but I understand I need it because like
Yeah.
without it, right? Like even on my end, I'm like, oh yeah, if I can post this, all right, you can find like how we connected, how other people connect, right? But I'm like, oh, do I really have to post this? Do I really have to do this? But again, it's a lot easier. I will say like for bands to get their name out there versus like back
Hmm.
in the day, because like you said, it was like street teams, I was part of them, or you would make the flyers, right? Or you would
Yeah.
burn the CDs and pass them out, and you're like,
Yes.
that's what
Yeah.
you would do. And like now, I mean, you still do that, but it's like, it's so much easier just to like, all right, here's a TikTok video. This is what we're
Yeah.
doing. This is what we sound like. This is what we look like when we
Yes.
perform. Come see
Yes.
us, you
Yeah,
know?
that too, like just like, like the like, people don't have to gamble as much on live music, which I think you should do that still. I think like everyone should at least like, I don't know. I won't give like a hard metric of you have to do this because
Yeah.
money, time, etc. But if you can at least once this year, go to a show where you know nothing at all about the
Hmm.
bands. You know what they look like, what they sound like. Maybe it's a new venue. I don't know. Bring a friend, sure. But like just experience that because I think that's really cool to do as well because you might find your favorite band doing that. You never know. But it is really cool that like we can like, you know, show people like here's like what you're gonna get if you like because like you are paying money for entertainment, right? Like you're paying to come see us. I want to make sure you have a good show. We do I'm biased, sure, but I think we do a pretty damn good job of having a fun live show. We take a lot of care to make sure like it's exciting and entertaining and interactive and all that. And so I want to make sure you know that what you're going to get into if you're going to spend $15 on a Tuesday night to come see a band from Chicago in your city, like I want to make it worth it for you. But at least you can at least like get a little bit of like assurance ahead of time. Like, okay, I've heard the songs on streaming or Bandcamp or whatever, and like, okay, I've seen a video of them live. Like they're not, they can actually play their instruments. They're not an AI band, which I don't know.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that like that's a really cool caveat we're getting now with social media that like even when I was in my band like 10 years ago, like was a lot harder to manifest and harder to create and push. All we had was like flyers on Instagram really, and maybe like you could upload your song to like your MySpace and hopefully people check
Right.
it out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Which is wild to think about. Yeah, like that time. It's far away, but it's not so far away. Like the MySpace, the pure volume time, all that, where you would
Yeah.
just
Oh,
pop it
pure
in.
volume.
It's like, oh my God, like even thinking about that and what it means. And I think the number one thing too, I tell people to support bands is like go out and definitely like try. And again, I'm not going to tell again with money, I get it. But if you can, merch, Bandcamp Fridays
Yeah.
are huge. Like
100. Yep.
Bandcamp, like I get it. The streaming is good on Spotify and this and that. But I think it was. Oh gosh, was it Crash Nebula? They're out of Pittsburgh. And they
Hmm.
were saying that it's almost better for people to go to Bandcamp and help support that way because
Yeah.
like on Spotify, you're not really like, I mean, you're there and you're accessible, but you're not really getting stuff as a support as much as from a band's perspective. If go to Bandcamp Fridays, I'm like, that's something so important because I think a lot of people forget about Bandcamp. They like talk about
Yeah.
Spotify, Apple, all that. Um, so we like it's so good and so support the bands on tour because like
Yeah.
I bet it goes such a long way. Like when you're having one of those rough days and you guys have driven all night and you're tired or say like irritable, whatever it is, and you want to play your music and all that good stuff. But like if someone comes up to you and is like, "Hey, good show. Like I really like that song." Like I'm sure that's almost like a
That's
hey,
all it
it's
takes.
worth it. It's
That's worth
worth
it.
it. Like
It's
it's
worth it.
worth it to do this because like I was like, yeah, I was definitely that person. Like I would look, oh, here's my tour date, great. Not realizing like, all right, this band definitely good luck if they've showered, good luck if they've eaten. We don't even know
Hmm.
what's happened. But they're here and they're playing for us and it's great, but like not realizing, but now I appreciate it as I'm learning about it by doing this and talking to bands and talking to people that do it. of
Yeah.
like the appreciation of like just the simple act of touring and like how us as fans and listeners should like make sure we support those bands that are out there and definitely non-AI, no AI music ever. Let's stop
Nope.
that. Not even just a little bit. I don't want to hear that
No.
argument. I've heard it from some people. Not a little bit, not a little bit. Like when I saw
Mm-mm.
this TikTok where this person's like, what if they just do a little bit? No,
No.
just
Zero.
no. We're
Zero.
done. That we
Just keep
shouldn't
on
have
moving.
it at all. Listen to great bands, listen to 10 Month Summer, which again, I thought it was really cool when I think I had DM'd you randomly. Like, is this in regards to turnover? Because like this has to be. And then when he says that, I was like, I knew it. I just knew it because like,
Yeah.
come on, this is
The
it.
goat, they're the goats. I mean, they wrote an insanely good
Oh,
record, many good records to be fair.
but
And we couldn't help ourselves. But
yeah.
and also like for supporting the bands too, like I know like the money, it's always about like so much of the conversation was like, oh,
Mm,
like go to Bandcamp, buy these things, go to
yeah.
shows, tours, like there are other ways to do it too that are completely free. Like your word of mouth is so powerful. Like that's like the beauty of podcasts, the beauty of all, just talking to your friends, the Discord server, whatever. Like these are like, you know, listening, engaging, sharing, reposting, liking. Those are free ways to do this, and not just for bands, for anything, for podcasts, for other artists. Like I don't know, like I made this video at the end of the year on TikTok. Where I was just like, hey, this next year, like I just want you to talk about bands more. Whoever's watching, because
Yeah.
but insert whatever art, right? But for us, it's bands, right? Because like I don't know about you, but like when I'm looking for new bands, like of course, like as a musician, like yes, I'm listening to the recommendations of other bandmates I know and other bands and whatnot. But like I think the average listener, they're talking to their friends, like
Hmm.
and so like if you tell your friend, hey, I saw this really cool band last night, or like I saw this band's podcast, I thought that what they had to say was really interesting, like that costs you nothing but time, which I know is precious, but like it's not even that hard to like hit repost on Twitter or to
Yes.
to make a comment or whatever. And we try to do our best in that regards too. Like, I really want to spend a lot of my time this year. Of course, gonna push our music and market our shit, but like at the same time, like in most breaths where I'm talking about our band, I'm talking about someone else too. And like
Hmm.
that's like my goal. Is like I don't want you to associate us ever with just us. I want you to see the other bands in our community, whether it's bands that our other members are in, or that we're friends with, or they're playing with, or that we've seen that we know. Like there are bands who I've never interacted with. They don't know who we are, that I talk about constantly, like in our circle, in our scene of our size. And like, I don't care if they never figure out who we are. I just think they've made something good, and I want them to be known for that, And so I hope that like that's what people take away the most from like whatever we're doing too, is that like it's a storytelling, right? Like I just
Hmm.
want someone to know that like they were listened to and heard, even if they don't know it. Like I want to do it for them. That's my spiel on listening to other people and doing stuff that doesn't cost cash, because I know money's tight, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, no, and I think that's so important because like that's why I'm one of those people too. Like a simple repost, a simple comment, a simple just like word of mouth. Like it's so important and it's something little you can do to support a favorite band or a band you enjoy. But it also goes back to like you said, like not just your band. And I'm one of those people that like I shout from the rooftops names that are in rooms of opportunity. I am always
yes,
like my biggest
absolutely.
thing is when I get ever a bigger guest, I don't even think like, oh, for myself. It's like, oh man, when other people check out that band, they're gonna
Hmm.
go back and see XYZ and they're gonna
Yes,
find some of these guys that maybe I want to lift up. So like I'm
yeah.
on that same wavelength of like it's so important to do things like that. And it's like, it's the same way. I don't want people to think, oh, just stereotherapy. Lisa, no, like it, I'm bringing everybody up with me at that point. And it goes back to the community aspect. Like my days back in Chicago, like it's stuck
Hmm.
with me like forever and ever. And, even though I'm not in there now, it's like, it's there. Um,
Yeah,
but man, oh my gosh, this has been so great. And I really appreciate like you coming on here and
of course. Thank
again
you.
being so open and honest, like not only about your music, about yourself and what's ahead, because I think a lot of people will gain a lot from what you said for sure. And then hopefully again, like watching or listening, go check out and get ready. And then we can figure out when we want to put this out. leading up to the EP and all of
Yeah.
that. But
Hopefully in the next few months, our goal is
yeah,
single out right around when we go on tour, so people have a little taste of like, oh, okay, new song, we can get hyped
right,
for that. I think look for like April-ish for when this EPT is coming out. So
perfect.
we're not that far away. We're
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wow, it's already February. Like I
Yeah,
don't even know where the time has gone. And yeah, and then we'll figure out like an exact date down the line, but I'll hold on to this one and have it ready. And again, like just appreciate it because like I anytime
of
I can
course,
hype
yeah,
someone from Chicago and then a band that's doing something different and like that I really like, I'm like, all right, great. Like let's go. There's a reason why like I also like, I know people use PR agencies and I have worked with some, but I like to just do it myself too. Like who do I
for
like?
sure.
Like who do
Yeah,
I want to lift up? Like
because
they're
you get
not
to
going
have
to give
some
me
cool
them.
convos. Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
that's
for
sick.
sure. And I always am that person. I'm like, I don't like some people are like, oh, like if they message me, oh, I only have this many followers. I'm like, I don't even look at your follower count. I'm like, what do you sound like? How are you?
Yeah,
Like, what are you putting out into the world? That's who I want to
exactly.
talk to. So again,
Oh,
like,
that's just beautiful. Like that's
yeah.
just such a great way to operate, like because like again, like all the things are so inflated, they're arbitrary, they're not real. Like
Hmm.
sure, like yeah, like if the follower kind is high, that's cool. Maybe more people see it. But like, is that what this is about? No, it's not.
No,
So
no, it's not. And